The Pickup is an American action comedy made for Amazon Prime, directed by Tim Story. It stars Eddie Murphy, Pete Davidson, Keke Palmer, and Eva Longoria. The movie follows a routine cash pickup that takes a wild turn when mismatched armored truck drivers Russell and Travis are ambushed by ruthless criminals led by a savvy mastermind. I'm sure you're clicking on this video for the main reason of leaving YouTube on autoplay and somehow came across this channel, then noticed the title and thought to yourself, what the hell is this movie? Well, I thought the same thing as I did my daily scroll through actors' filmographies. When I was looking at Eddie Murphy's lineup of films, I was curious to see if the guy had anything coming up. Saw it was coming out soon, and knew I had to take a look at it while going in without any prejudice whatsoever. So, what and how exactly is this movie? Well, let's find out. I'm going to start by talking about the performances, leading with Eddie Murphy. I usually enjoy some of the guy's comedic work. I know in the latter years of his career, people got a bit sick of it. Even at one point, he himself got sick of it and wanted to do more serious roles, but every now and then, I think he does well in some movies, whether they're comedic or serious. I particularly enjoyed his performance in the film Wife. Murphy here, sometimes, I will give him credit, is trying to act like he cares about this movie. Getting the positives out of the way, I'll admit as well, maybe one or two line deliveries from Murphy did get a laugh out of me, purely from him being committed to the bit and the confidence he had at delivering said bit. But for most of the movie, he just doesn't do all that much. His character is placed in a few action scenes, one specifically in the beginning of the movie, and I haven't seen anything showing that he did it himself, so that's not exactly something I can really give him much credit for. Pete Davidson is in this. He's known for movies like Bodies, 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 Dumb Money, and The King of Staten Island. While I try to not let bias spoil my judgment in a film, I will admit I still haven't fully come around on Davidson. I think sometimes he does a good job when he does voice acting, since he has an expressive voice. Most recently, he was the villain in the movie Dogman. I thought he did a good job there. He was also in that Transformers movie from 2023, and I thought he was one of the better voice acting roles there. In this movie, to his credit, he does a good job at playing a complete brainless idiot, but his character is so dense to the point it becomes annoying. But this is obviously more of an issue with the writing, not him as a person. He does have moments where he betrays himself with this wide-eyed wonder and shallow view of the world, which could be seen as a character flaw, but it's just how the guy is. Most of the time, he's just annoying, and most of the time, when they try to make him do funny stuff, I just never laughed at him. Keke Palmer is here too. She's known for her roles in movies like Nope, Hustlers, and Jump In, also starring Corbin Bleu. I will admit, out of the whole cast, she is probably the standout here. Every scene she's in, she walks around with the biggest confidence in the world, and on occasions, she makes the material she's given work. She's, in a way, the antagonist of this film, but I didn't really find her to be all that threatening. She just doesn't give off the vibe of being this evil leader. There's moments in the movie where her character has to be pretty tech savvy, and to Palmer's credit, she does make this element of her character believable, but there isn't really much else to her. Eva Longoria is also in this movie. She's known for movies like Food Fight, but is more known for TV, especially with the TV show Desperate Housewives. She isn't in the movie all that much, and for the short screen time she has, she does okay with the material. Even the material basically just makes her a walking stereotype. They have her speaking really fast, speaking in her native tongue whenever she's mad. Her character is with Eddie Murphy, and we don't really spend a lot of time with them to gauge what their love is like, so their chemistry doesn't feel very believable. Andrew Dice Clay is in this movie for a little bit. He's known for movies like Pretty in Pink, A Star is Born, and Blue Jasmine. The only reason he's somewhat worth bringing up is just cause for most of the time he's on screen, he's kind of just screaming, and that's meant to be the extent of what the writers think is funny for this guy to do. I don't know the actor too well. I don't know if yelling at people is what he's known for. It doesn't really work here, and it doesn't make for an engaging performance, so I don't really know why I'm wasting my time talking about him. This movie has such a generic plot. Anything you've seen in most heist movies is done here, because at the end of the day, that's what this movie is. It's a heist movie, at least partially. The movie starts in a weird way, as characters don't really act like real people, and on one hand, for certain characters, you can tell from a mile away it's for ulterior motives. But other characters, you're just baffled at what the fuck you're seeing. As I briefly mentioned, Pete Davidson's character is also portrayed like a complete buffoon, so much so that you wonder if they wanted to make his character have brain damage. And then a few scenes later, you find out he's apparently some math savant that can solve equations super easily. I suppose at times this is meant to be used as a joke, like haha, bet you didn't expect that, because other than that, it doesn't really come up in the plot. The first act of this thing ends with an extended action set piece, but nothing in this thing is thrilling enough to fully engage me. The action isn't exactly unique at all. There's certain things that characters do that I feel like I've seen done to death in similar films. The second act features a lot of meandering that the writers probably thought was character development, but I really don't learn anything new about these characters characters. This movie has this constant will they won't they with Davidson and Palmer's character, but this movie is so cookie cutter that by the end of it you probably know exactly how their situation is going to turn out to be. They try to throw in some plot twist in terms of what the villains are doing, but again, with the way this movie is written, anyone with a working brain could see it coming from a mile away. This movie just doesn't do anything interesting half the time. I was struggling to even pay attention as I felt like I'd seen this movie done similarly to death at this point. The cinematography in this movie was done by Larry Blanford, who's previously done cinematography for the 2005 Fantastic Four movie, which I'm going to say straight up, that movie looks so much better than this. That movie at times feels like it has sauce. There's nothing interesting going on here, nothing unique or creative in the cinematography. It's all very standard. There's a lot of times when the characters are driving on the road and that road never looks real in the mirrors. And not in a charming way that we've seen in the golden age of Hollywood. That sort of charm probably is never going to be seen in Hollywood films ever again at this point, unless someone with an auteur vision actually cares about the medium. There's nothing to work off of here. I suppose it's just a streaming movie, so they weren't looking to make this movie look pretty. I suppose it's just insanely disappointing. After I pointed out in my video on The Naked Gun, that movie is an action comedy that really cared about its look and overall style. The colors here don't pop. Most of the lighting is completely flat, and it's just really, really boring to look at. The music in this movie was composed by Christopher Lennertz. He's done music for movies like Lemonade Mouth, Baywatch, and Hop, of all things. The music in this movie is really bland and leaves nothing to be desired. It's very standard stuff you would hear in an action movie. A lot of string instrumentation that never really feels memorable here. It admittedly suits most of the scenes that it's used in, but only just about, as it's more so just generic wallpaper music. I suppose, since this is a comedy, I have to talk about the comedy in this movie. Well, there isn't really anything to say about it, since some of the jokes made me laugh. Most of the comedy relies on the buddy dynamic of Eddie Murphy and Pete Davidson, but they're so horribly miscast together. I just feel like their dynamic never worked off each other as well as it should have. The pairing just felt so forced. Most of the comedy for Davidson relies on him being really stupid, and it just becomes sadder the more the movie goes on. There's moments where characters just shout at each other, and it seems like the writer's excuse for comedy. Now, in other situations, this can work, like in the TV show Like It's Always Sunny, but here it just becomes annoying more than anything. Overall, I really didn't like this movie. It's completely vapid and just doesn't hold anything interesting as a movie. It's a shame, as Amazon's straight-to-streaming output this year, at least this summer, has produced some mildly entertaining movies, like with the John Cena movie Heads of State. I'd best describe this movie as a complete waste of time. By the time you get to the end of this movie, it feels like you've gained absolutely nothing from watching it, and you'll sit there thinking, what was the point of any of this? I don't even know who this movie is made for at this point. It's just the odd pairing of Murphy and Davidson just didn't make sense to me. I'm giving The Pickup 1.5 stars. The performances are completely unconvincing and boring to watch, as actors do nothing with the material they're given. It's generic and boring for its entire runtime. Even if it's only an hour and a half, there's a point where this movie feels like it slogs, which is a product of just really bad pacing. It's boring to look at and does nothing to deserve the viewer's attention. I genuinely wouldn't recommend this to anyone, but if you haven't been swayed differently by my review, the movie is on Amazon Prime, and since I'm not a shield for that company, and I'm not getting paid to make this review, since the movie is just complete shit, it's probably a much better idea to pirate it.